With the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, the Elizabethan era is considered to be a golden age in English history. It was the height of the English Renaissance, and saw the flourishing of English literature and poetry. Elizabethan theatre and the name of William Shakespeare are inextricably bound together, yet there were others writing plays at the same time as the Bard of Avon. One of the most successful was Christopher Marlowe, who many contemporaries consider Shakespeare superior. Marlowe's career, however, was cut short at a comparatively young age when he died in a tavern fight in Deptford.
Theatre had an unsavory reputation. London authorities refused to allow plays within the city, so theatres opened across the Thames in Southwark, outside the authority of the city administration.
The first proper theatre as we know it was the theatre. Before this time, plays were performed in the courtyard of inns, or sometimes in the houses of noblemen. A noble had to be careful about which play he allowed to be performed within his home. After the theatre, further open-air playhouses opened in the London area, including the Rose and the Hope. The most famous playhouse was the Globe.
The Globe was only in use until 1613, when a cannon fired down during a performance of Henry VIII caught the roof on fire and the building burned to the ground. The site of the theatre was rediscovered in the 20th century, and a reconstruction built near the spot. Theatre performances were held in the afternoon, because there was no artificial lighting. Women attend plays thought often the prosperous woman would wear a mask to disguise her identity. Further, no woman performed in the plays. Female roles were generally performed by young boys.
William Shakespeare was born on the 23rd April of 1564, 6 years after Elizabeth I became queen. He was married to Anne Hathaway when he was just 18. Together they have 3 children. It is not known what Shakespeare did before he went to London in 1587, where he was able to make a career out of his talent for writing plays and poetry. In London he became a professional actor, joining a company called the Lord Chamberlain Men.
Eventually Shakespeare wrote all the scripts for the company, plays that are still famous today like Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth. Living in London did not mean he left his family for good. He would often return to Stratford to visit them. When James I came to the throne in 1603, he recognized Shakespeare and his company as a leading group of actors, and from then on, they were known as the Kingsmen.
Although Shakespeare plays were performed at other venues during a playwright's career, the Globe Theatre in the Southwark district of London was the venue at which the Bard's best-known stage works were first produced. The Globe was built during the Shakespeare-era period in 1599 by one of his long-standing associates, Cuthbert Borbash, the brother of the most famous Shakespearean actor of the Elizabethan age, Richard Borbash.
The theatre that Borbash built for the Chamberlain Men had a total capacity between 2,000 and 3,000 spectators. Because there was no lighting, all performances at the Globe were conducted, where permitting, during the day.
Shakespeare produced most of his known work between 1590 and 1613. His early plays were mainly comedies and histories, genres he raised to the peak of sophistication and artistry by the end of the 16th century. Next he wrote mainly tragedies until about 1608, producing plays such as Hamlet, King Lear, and Macbeth, considered some of the finest in the English language. In his last phase, he wrote tragicomedies and collaborated with other playwrights. Many of his plays were published in editions of varying quality and accuracy during his lifetime, and in 1623, 2 of his former theatrical colleagues published the first folio, a collected edition of his dramatic works that included all but 2 of the plays now recognized as Shakespeare's. Shakespeare was a respected poet and playwright in his own day, but his reputation did not rise to its present heights until the 19th century. The Romantics, in particular, acclaimed Shakespeare's genius, and the Victorians hero-worshipped Shakespeare with a reverence that George Bernard Shaw called Biography. In the 20th century, his work was repeatedly adopted and rediscovered by new movements in scholarship and performance. His plays remain highly popular today and are consistently performed and reinterpreted in diverse cultural and political contexts throughout the world. Shakespeare's work has made a lasting impression on later theatre and literature. In particular, he expanded the dramatic potential of characterization, plot, language, and genre. Until Romeo and Juliet, for example, romance had not been viewed as a worthy topic for tragedy. Soliloquies had been used mainly to convey information about characters or events. But Shakespeare used them to explore characters' minds. His work heavily influenced later poetry.
The Romantic poets attempted to revive Shakespearean verse drama, though with very little success. Critic George Steiner described all English verse dramas from Coleridge to Tennyson as feeble variations on Shakespearean themes.
Among the most famous and critically acclaimed of Shakespeare's plays are Romeo and Juliet, King Lear, Macbeth, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, Othello, The Tempest, Twelfth Night, The Merchant of Venice, and Richard III.
Shakespeare continues to be considered the greatest English writer of all time throughout the 20th century. Most Western educational systems required the textual study of 2 or more of Shakespeare's plays, and both amateur and professional stagings of Shakespeare were commonplace.